Right, we're going to start by talking about Liverpool, Paul. Is that okay?
We've got to.
Yeah, we've got to. 2-0 midweek loss to PSG. So firstly, give us your thoughts on the performance.
Yeah, just really strange. It's odd because I know football moves on really quickly, but I remember asking Jurgen Klopp a question before the Champions League final in 2018 and saying, any special plans to deal with Real Madrid? And he kind of said, well, no, because if I walk into the dressing room last game of the season and say, right, everything we've been doing is not right, let's do something completely different for this one, I don't think that sends the right message. And I think to then see Liverpool play a formation that effectively they've not played before, and you know, against, you know, the best team technically in Europe, seemed a bit strange, seemed a bit disjointed. There were a few decent moments in there, and I was left kind of wondering, you know, whether there was an idealised world where, you know, if Alexander Isak had been fit and we had that, you know, natural goal scorer up top, could it have been different? But yeah, it comes on late, and that's where we're at in the season. So yeah, it was a strange game. We were probably lucky to only get away 2-0, which could bode well for the week to come, but we'll see.
You're very well placed to answer this because you speak to a lot of fans. Obviously, Redmen TV, you're synonymous with the Liverpool fan base. Give us your thoughts on Arne Slot now. Obviously, won the league last season. There seems to be a lot of talk about Arne, his future, the fans' opinions. So where are you at and where is the fan base at with Arne Slot?
I would suggest the fan base is leaning towards letting him go. I would say I'm moving him on. Personally, I could understand that. I think if the decision got taken, I think I'd go, yeah, OK, that makes sense to me. I think if they let him see the season out, given everything that he's had to go through and the squad's had to go through from obviously the death of Diogo Jota and the incident with the parade in the summer, there's a lot of emotional undercurrents of the football club this season, which I don't think should be getting forgotten about quickly. And then injuries. No, I think there's been a lot of mitigating circumstances. So I do feel sympathy for Slot, but I don't feel as though that's a common opinion anymore. I think more and more people have kind of had enough because you watch the football, it's not thrilling. Liverpool aren't playing great. They're not scoring goals. They're not keeping it watertight at the back either. So what are they? And you naturally then lean towards, could someone get better out of these players? And it's hard to say that wouldn't be the case.
Dukes, where are you at with Slot? I think he would probably have a better chance of surviving if there wasn't a former Liverpool legend waiting in the wings that needs to get his managerial career back on track after that disappointing decision from Real Madrid to fire Xabi Alonso. And I think that decision to fire Xabi Alonso just looks worse and worse from a Real Madrid perspective. You know, Arbeloa has already lost 6 games in 19. Xabi Alonso lost 6 on, I think, 34. So it just hasn't worked well as a replacement whatsoever, and it didn't look like it was going to. Arbeloa had only managed, I think it was 19 games with Castilla. So Xabi Alonso is there. Arne Slot's had a difficult season. I think they've lost for the third. They've lost 3 games in a row for the 3rd time this season. The last time they did that was in the early 50s when they were relegated. So it's almost unprecedented levels of struggle this year for Liverpool. And I think, yeah, thank him and probably move on in the summer.
So, in short, thanks for having me on. This is great.
Good to have Paul on in a different scenario today.
He's usually gloating.
Usually absolutely gloating. Well, today we're actually putting you in the sort of managerial hot seat of Liverpool, effectively. We're looking to build an 11 for Liverpool next season, the perfect Liverpool 11 in your eyes. We're going to allow you to recruit more players. Spent quite a lot last summer, but we'll spend even more this summer. But you can keep players in the team as well. This is your decision, your 11 to build, Paul. So let's start in goal.
Yes.
Would you make a change there?
Yeah, no, I think for now, Alisson Becker, I think the thing is they brought Mamardashvili in. I think he's looked a little bit more settled. Having played a couple of games, shock.
He was good against PSG.
Yeah, he was okay. He made some decent saves. I'm not convinced he's the right profile in terms of with the ball at his feet. We'll have to remain to be seen on that one. So for me, Alisson, until proven otherwise, is still the best goalie that we've got.
Stick him up.
Stick him down.
Yep.
And listen, I think it's worth... You mentioned the formation earlier about how it's changed. So what formation... This is your perfect 11. This is next season. So what is the ideal formation with what you're building today?
No idea. Because I don't know what formation Liverpool really want to play this season. I don't know what formation the signings were built for. When you see us play 4-2-2-2, you could play 2 up top, and so actually Isak and Ekitike would make perfect sense in that regard. But then there's no Rio and Gamoa, there's no Mo Salah, there's no wingers in that at all. I've gone 4-3-3 just because it's the formation I understand Liverpool in.
Do you think that was a problem in the summer with the recruitment, that they didn't know what they were recruiting for in terms of the system?
Maybe. I can't imagine. It's hard to imagine that would have been the case, because I think there's some very, very smart people who work behind the scenes in the scouting department and the data department for Liverpool. But I mean, I think I saw the stat the other week that Vert, Ekatike and Isaac have only played like 88 minutes together.
Crazy.
You know, there's £300 million worth of talent that they've bought to move the squad forward, and they haven't played. So until I see that, I can't know what it was they were trying to do. But no, I'm going to go back to type a bit. So I'll if you don't just do the full
of course,
the way. So
get it right back.
Frimpong for this, I just think he's been absolutely fine, and I think just fitness-wise, even though he's had some issues this season, Conor Bradley, big, kind of question mark over whether he can do it physically.
Dougie, thoughts on Frimpong this season?
Because bear in mind it's a back four as well, so is that a natural fit for him playing?
Well, it's not the role he played at Bayer Leverkusen that got him the move. I think he actually started really poorly, then seemed to pick up, then got injured, and it's just been a real stop-start campaign for him. I've actually enjoyed him more further forward when he's actually played on the right. I would probably, I don't want to reveal it too early before we go through the whole 11. I actually would shift to a back five because I think that's the system that Florian Wirtz thrived in. I think it could work quite well with Ekatike, who played in a 5 at the back system at Frankfurt, although in a 2 up top. It suits Frimpong. I think it suits Kerkez. And then you don't need to sign.
Then, couldn't you,
and then I don't think you need to spend so much money in midfield. I just think it looks like the recruitment was heading towards that last summer. But I get from Paul's perspective and many Liverpool fans, when I put it on Twitter in September, every Liverpool fan came back to me and were like, we are not a 5 at the back club. So there's a real issue there.
And also there's like anyone who grew up through the 90s remembers Liverpool playing 5 at the back, 3 at the back, 5 at the back, wing backs, and it's not remembered particularly fondly. So there's a little bit of damage in the history there. Jeremy Jacquet, anyway, we've agreed him for the
No Konate?
Yeah.
No. I just want to see what this kid can do, to be perfectly honest, and I think we've kind of seen with Konate. So there's a guy, Josh Williams, who does some brilliant writing on Liverpool, and he's convinced that certain centre-halves have got this sort of inbuilt thing to them, which means they sort of self-destruct at big moments in football matches, and it looks like Konate seems to have that. There is a name for that, which is slightly more offensive, which I won't use on this show. I'll let you find Josh Williams' work, and he can tell you that himself. But I just want to see what this.
So would you give Konate a new contract then?
I would give him a new contract because I just don't see that you need to do extra work. I think he's integrated into the squad. I think he's likeable, and on his day he's fabulous. He's such a good defender. But we need more, and I give the new guy a look and see what he...
So 20 years of age, straight in. If you do, let's just get your thoughts on Jackie. Obviously, European football expert, you watched a lot of football. How good a signing will he be, do you think?
I think he looks really exciting, and the fact that both Liverpool and Chelsea were willing to spend so much money in January is a really positive sign. What's really upsetting is that he then did his shoulder, I think, a couple of weeks later, and he's missed this entirety of the last few months and probably won't come back before the end of the season. So that's not great in terms of joining a new club. You haven't played for 6 months. You're joining a club that have had such a bad season by their own amazing standards. So it's quite a difficult scenario to come in at.
Virgil van Dijk will stick around. Yeah, absolutely. And then at left back, obviously we now know Andy Robertson's going to be leaving at the end of the season.
Let's get your thoughts on that. Look, he's going at the end of the season. Everything with Tottenham as well.
Yeah.
From a Liverpool's fan perspective, you've seen so much love, the outpouring of love for what he's done for Liverpool. Give me your thoughts on that news.
Weirdly more emotional about that than the Salah one.
Are you?
Well, yeah, because...
Wow.
Well, no, just because Salah's a superstar, and, we'll always have superstars. There'll always be the next Mo Salah. But Andy Robertson is just there's just something about him. I think about all the great players we've had going back over the last decade, and I just had this thought, and I was like, he might be my favourite of the lot. And bear in mind Van Dijk's and Salah's and Firmino's and Mane's and everything in between. There's just something about Andy Robertson that he possesses. There's an old school quality to him in terms of how he conducts himself. He's such a brilliant laugh as well. He's got real personality. That we'll lose something, not just on the pitch, which I think he's still got a lot to offer, but actually in the dressing room as well. So big loss.
Yeah.
But I think Kerkez is excellent. So.
Okay, into midfield, I think major recruitment happening here.
Yeah, so look, Liverpool do need pace in other areas of the team, which we'll come on to. And maybe this is a bit of a low-hanging fruit sort of answer, but I've gone for Elliot Anderson.
Lots of competition for his signature.
A lot of clubs will be in for him.
And I'm not sure Liverpool would actually be one of them, if I'm honest. I haven't seen a great deal of links that way, but what I did was just look into someone who wins the ball back, and his ball recoveries this season are effectively double anything Liverpool have got in midfield. And some of that's systemic, some of that's the way that Gravenberch has been getting used a little bit more advanced, I would suggest. But I want someone who just loves winning the football.
Yeah.
And that can get lost sometimes into just someone like you've got just a dog in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want more, and I think he's got that as well. His ability to carry the ball is excellent.
What's interesting is that stat's done the round a lot, I think. I think a lot of people know that he has won the most possession of all Premier League players. But I think what's not spoken about highly enough is that's 95 more than the next highest players. So the possession stats and his ability in that area of the pitch is probably why so many clubs are in for him, Dougie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both Man United, or both Manchester clubs, I should say, want Elliot Anderson. I wouldn't be surprised if a club like Real Madrid wanted him as well. They always sign a star of the World Cup. I think Elliot Anderson's going to start for England's midfield. If England make the semi-finals, which I think is probably a realistic aim right now, I could see all the top clubs going for him.
And so, partner him, you've got...
So I've put Szoboszlai in there, and not because... I've got Gravenberch in my pile here as well as a conversation point, because I think it's kind of much of a muchness. It's more that when I then built the rest out, there was nowhere else for Szoboszlai to go, and I was like, gosh, I can't come on national telly and have Liverpool's best player this season not be in the ultimate 11. So for now, Szoboszlai a bit deeper.
I think it is an interesting talking point, though, because last season, McAllister and Gravenberch were just a whole different level. So what's happened there?
It's McAllister, I think, more than anything else.
Okay.
And he is a perfect example of the issues Liverpool are facing across the entire season. That if you watch him week to week in the Premier League, you go, looks like his legs have gone, looks like he's really sort of struggling. Maybe something's broken there. And then you watch him in Europe, and he's brilliant. Yeah. And you go, oh, so it's just not as cut and dry, and I think that's kind of like a lot of my issues with Liverpool this season. If they were just unilaterally terrible in every game they played, you go, okay, well, that makes it a really easy decision to make, but it's not. There's a frustration there with McAllister that he can still do it actually at a really high level, just not seemingly every week.
And we've got to shout, obviously, it's not been the season you'd hope for, but we have to shout out Szoboszlai, the levels that Szoboszlai has been operating at this season.
Brilliant. Well, I think one of the best midfielders in the entire Premier League for a side that have really, really struggled. And it was interesting to see, he's barely been rotated at all. I think he's been Liverpool's most consistent player, but I think he did look a bit tired last weekend in the FA Cup. Nico O'Reilly running off the back of him. And if Szoboszlai's energy is going, I think it does speak to the fact that Arne Slot doesn't rotate this side enough. He did the same thing last year. It led to a dip towards the end of the season. And this year, the likes of Endo, Chiesa, even someone like Curtis Jones, they just don't get consistent minutes.
Yeah, 12 goals, 8 assists in all comps this season for Szoboszlai.
Stunning.
So, third place. So this is your number 10 now.
Yeah, so Florian Wirtz.
Wirtz in the 10.
No problem with him whatsoever. I think he's getting better and better. He had that injury, I think, ahead of the Nottingham Forest game, and he's only just starting to come back to form again. I think, look, ultimately, it's not been the season that everyone would have hoped from him, but I don't think any Liverpool fan who's watched him has thought we've bought anything less than a fantastic footballer there. So, more flow.
Okay,
this next one I think is going to cause some ripples and a bit of reaction. Okay. It's a rogue shout.
So,
bearing in mind you were tasked with realistic.
Okay.
Who can dream?
Yeah, okay, so I've gone for Michael Olise.
Okay, so this is the Salah replacement.
This is the Salah replacement, and this is, again, and I'm not sure that Liverpool are going to go into the market this summer to that kind of value.
Yeah.
That's another on the par with Wirtz and Isak.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're going to
do that. That was my question, really. I want to get Dougie's thoughts on that, because obviously the levels Olise is operating at this season, in my opinion, it's the best front three currently in world football. Diaz, Kane, Olise, just frightening levels. Obviously, Liverpool's a massive club. Of course, they can attract a player of that calibre, but he's not going to be cheap, and he's in an amazing system at the minute. I mean, can you see that in any realms happening?
No. If I'm totally honest, no. I think, look, he's got the perfect setup to win trophies on a year-on-year basis. He clearly meshes so well with those other forwards there. He's starting France number 10 now. He's got a very decent chance of winning the World Cup. Why would he leave in that summer to join a club that's potentially going to be playing outside of the Champions League? But he'd be obviously phenomenal. I think so many Premier League clubs missed the opportunity to get him. I mean, he's been linked with Newcastle the year before he then joined Bayern. He was close to joining Chelsea. But Bayern is obviously just such a great club to play for.
Should we do the two together?
I was about to say.
This is a...
Let's do your next two together, because this is a talking point.
This is a talking point collectively,
as
isn't
a collective.
Yeah, so I've put Ekitike on the left-hand side, and I've gone with Alex Isak through the middle.
So you're saying Ekitike out on the left. I know you've also got a Rio and Gamua magnet as well.
Yeah, so Rio's...
And Diamande.
Yes, so I think as far... Now, the issue we've got is in terms of the system. Now, if we're just sticking with the 4-3-3 for the sake of talking, the thing about the Elise thing is he's left-footed as well, which I think would be a major issue. I've got Yan Diomande in there as a potential, and obviously Rio and Gamoa as well. This goes back to the kind of problem. We've not seen enough of Ekitike off the left. I think we might have done if Isak had been more fit through the season. I think he's got the profile for it, he's got the pace, and he's not quite the stone-cold killer in front of goal yet. So I think he's done a really good job as the 9. But if you've got Isak there doing the things that Isak is supposed to do, then Ekitike's pace and his dribble and his creativity, I think that could really work. But Rio and Gamoa needs to be in that conversation. He's going to be a year older, a year more mature, a little bit more experience under his belt. And I mentioned the Diomande stuff, just getting another young flyer in.
Yeah.
Liverpool need pace.
I was going to say that, yeah, pace. Dukes, what are your thoughts on that 11?
Yan Diomande would be an amazing addition for sure. He can play on both sides as well, but he is still relatively young. He's only had 1 year of top 5 league experience. I think he only played about 500 minutes for Leganés before joining RB Leipzig. What I would do, and again, I'm going back to this 5 at the back, if Xabi Alonso comes in, I'd buy a left-sided centre-back, say someone like Nico Schlotterbeck, Virgil van Dijk in the middle, Xhaka on the right, Frimpong up here, Kerkez up here. These two, you know, that'd be amazing if you get Elliot Anderson, but it kind of negates the need to sign a midfielder because you've got McAllister, you've got Jones, you've got Gravenberch, and then you've got Frimpong here, or Wirtz here as well, and then Ekitike and Isak as the 2.
Yeah.
So it just saves Liverpool a lot of money in a summer where they've spent so much money, and it gets Wirtz and Frimpong into the positions that they thrived in. And look, I know a lot of Liverpool fans won't want to play a 5 at the back, but they have signed players that suit that system, so you've kind of got to release them and put them in their best positions.
Suits Xabi Alonso as well.
Yeah, great debate. Great debate.
Whisper the name. Whisper the name.
There we go. There is confirmation of Paul's perfect Liverpool 11 that he wants to see next season. Let us know what you think of both of those debates, actually, Dougie and Paul, being different perspectives. I like that.